Welcome in, everybody. It's time for a little Talkin' Ball episode brought to you by our friend John Donovan over at Longhorn Wealth Management. Thanks, John, for your sponsorship of Talkin' Ball. We've got a special guest coming today as well, former Longhorn and current orthopedic Dr. Brett Robin. He's going to relive his time watching or playing for the Longhorns. Brett, by the way, undefeated against the Aggies. Not bad there, Brett. All right, Jerry, also Jerry Hamilton joining me. I'm Bobby Burton as well. We're going to talk a little bit of recruiting today, try to get everybody going a little bit, talking a little bit of news and notes from the press conferences that not only Steve Sarkisian had, but also our guy over in College Station, Mike Elko, as well. Talk a little bit about that. Jerry, I know you listened to the press conference today about from Steve Sarkisian. He talked a lot about the real buildup for this game and what it means to him as a coach of the Longhorns and as a fan, largely of college football as a whole. What did you think of the head coach, and what do you think of this game coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, I think, look, it's the game is I expect the players to come out of this game saying it's maybe the loudest atmosphere they've ever played in on the Texas side. And I think that's a reality, and that's what makes this is going to make this rivalry great, because I expect A&M players to say the same after next year's game. These first 2, 3, 4 years of this rivalry coming back, I think, are going to be pure chaos and just unreal excitement for the fan bases. So I that's what I expect. Look, I think Sark. It's hard not to be confident when your defense is playing as well as Texas is, right? But I think he's got a great appreciation for this rivalry. He's a college football kind of historian type of mind as well. So he could have lived in California his entire life and never taken a job east of Arizona, and he would still understand a rivalry like A&M Texas. That he's that level college football fan and historian type of mind. But I think this team, one of my big takeaways here, Bobby, is I think Ole Miss and Alabama losing. I think Texas is in the playoffs. I think that takes some pressure off of Texas going into this game. It's a lot easier to just play. They're confident, but loose, free, and fast. Because unless something catastrophic happens, you lose 50-0, you're in the playoff now. So that takes a lot of that pressure off of Texas heading into that game. And I think that's going to lead to a really talented team playing with a loose freedom about them now, since they don't have to go in and win to make the playoffs, because I do think they're in.
There's an element of that I agree with. So the whole idea of I can't mess up because this game means too much. Well, yeah, it means a lot. But if you have that game in your back pocket, it can also, or have the playoff in your back pocket, it can also mean you can play a little more freely and loosely. And frankly, that's not something that A&M is going to. They don't have that margin for error.
They don't.
That Texas does. That doesn't mean that Texas can want it any less, right? That's the flip side is, A&M knows they have to have it, so they're more motivated. Texas can't go in there not as motivated. I don't think that's going to be a problem, but there are two sides to that coin, which I think is completely legitimate. Okay.
Yeah, the pressure's on A&M in this game now. It shifted with their loss to Auburn.
No doubt. Absolutely. 100%. I do want to add this, guys. We're going to have Brett Robin on here in a little bit, talk to him a little bit about the Longhorns and Aggies and what the game has meant to him and other UT players throughout the years. Love to have him on. And we're also going to take your questions and talk about your questions and enter the chat line. Let you guys ask us questions. That's what we normally do on each and every Talkin' Ball. So get ready for that. All right, let's go back before we do all of that and get to the chat line and say thank you to our sponsor. We'd like to thank John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John's a proud Texas Life member whose wife and 6 siblings are all UT grads. This family passion is what led John to brand his firm, Longhorn Wealth Management Group, into providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families of friends across the nation. John wants to wish all the OTF family a blessed and bountiful Thanksgiving, with the Longhorns doing their part by giving us a 10-1 record to be thankful for. John's offering a free 90-minute consultation to help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. Call John and the Longhorn Wealth team at 972-707-4900 or go online at longhornwealth.net to schedule your free consultation today. Happy Thanksgiving from John and his group. Let's beat the Aggies and hook them. All right, Jerry, let's go to the chat line and get it going here. First and foremost, I think, what is the word on Quinn? Look, I'll just say this, but I'm not going to give away anything that we do or don't know on Quinn Ewers at this point. I will just say that today was a walkthrough, not a full-on practice, okay? Even though it's late in the year, they still have some pretty regular practices. Right now, today was just a walkthrough for the Longhorns. So any news that leaks out about Quinn, one way or the other, we're not going to be that group that does that. Please realize that. So that's the update right there, Jerry. It was simply a walkthrough.
Yeah.
Arched horns. Quinn was having a pretty good game until the injury, and we had a good lead. Bringing in Arch wouldn't have had negative repercussions. I'll tell you what, he was having not a good game. I thought he was having a great game, and I even thought he was having a great game after the injury when he was 95%, because that injury, guys, it occurred in the second quarter when the game was still 7-7. Texas went on to lead 24-7. I think the halftime, that injury kept getting exacerbated a little bit more and a little bit more. And then the third quarter happened and he was hurt. At that point in time, Sark didn't think he was going to have to worry about Quinn in that third quarter. He thought he had already worked himself through it. Sark got thrown a little bit of a curveball when it really tightened up on him and he couldn't move. I hear you, I guess. It wouldn't have hurt to put in Arch. But look, I mean, Sark had a game plan for the fourth quarter, and I don't care what you say. If you think you can run the ball and you're proven right and you can hand it off 15 times, I'm not messing with a quarterback change. I'll put it that way. Not with a 10-point lead. And you know what? If the coach ends up doing it right, there's no second guessing that. I mean, he did it. They milked the clock away. You have any issues on that and what Sark did there, Jerry, or you in agreement?
You know, in the game, I just when it was started to get a little closer, I thought Quinn was moving so bad. My concern at that time was if he had taken one more hit, what was that going to do to him? If somebody falls on him one more time, what would that have done? How long would he have been out? How much would that have exasperated the injury? That was my concern. I get what other people are talking about. Hey, if Arch comes in, lights it up, blah, blah, blah. Sark doesn't want to have to talk about it in the press conference the week at A&M. I get all that stuff. But my concern with leaving him out there when he was clearly hurt was all it takes is Deion Walker falling into the side of his leg, and then he's out for the rest of the season at that point when you already have a hurt ankle.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my concern is it could have been worse just by one unlucky play.
Got it. All right. This is going to be a little bulletin board material we're going to talk about here. Did y'all see what Trey Zunn said about Anthony Hill, the offensive lineman out of Colorado that's a long-term starter for the Aggies? Basically said today that, you know what, we've seen guys like Anthony Hill before. We're not really worried about him. My take on that is, why do you poke the bear, Trey Zunn?
I think he was just talking about when
Anthony said something about Ryan Williams today, the wide receiver out of Alabama. Why on God's green earth do you poke the bear? What about this game has not taught you not to poke the bear? And Anthony Hill is not who you want to poke, Jerry. What are the Aggies doing?
I think what he meant was he saw Anthony Hill a lot when he was committed to A&M and visiting. We've seen guys like him before. No, it was actually Anthony Hill. He was committed before he flipped. I think Trey just had a memory lapse there. But I was looking at the Texas A&M schedule this year. They've played Notre Dame, McNeese, Florida, Bowling Green, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi State, LSU, South Carolina, New Mexico State, and Auburn. I don't think they have seen a linebacker like him. They've seen some good edge players, a couple good safeties. I would argue with Trey Zund, they haven't seen a linebacker like Anthony Hill this year. But again, I think
Harold Perkins was out. Harold Perkins was out at LSU. Notre Dame probably has a guy or two. Urlacher's son is a linebacker at Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. Remember the last time OU taunted Anthony Hill? Good one, Tedapari. Good stuff. That Low JN has a good question for us, Jerry. Who is the best quarterback Texas has faced that resembles Marcel Reed? I don't see them being much of a threat to us offensively. I tell you what is a little bit of a threat. I think that they can run. They have a heavy run set, and they throw play action out of it. And Marcel Reed's a good enough thrower. He's not a great thrower of the football, but he is good enough to move the chains at times for them. And he does a good job of identifying mismatches, I think. Who is the closest quarterback that resembles Marcel Reed? Michael Thompson, but a more polished Michael Thompson?
Yeah, Michael Hawkins is a runner. Yeah. But Reed's almost more shifty. He's almost, you know what he looks like when he runs? Aaron Ross. You know, he got those just really loose hips. He almost looks like a corner out there like Aaron Ross used to, just running around on punt returns and whatnot, playing corner. As a runner, it's got to be Michael Hawkins, but I think he's a little more shifty, a little more darting quick than Michael Hawkins is. So I don't think they faced anybody necessarily like him this year. And I'm not sitting here saying he's an All-American or anything, but I was just answering a question. I don't think Texas has faced anybody like him this year. I'm not going to go Trey Zund and said, oh yeah, Texas has seen this guy 17 times this year. I'm not going to be that idiot.
I like Marcel Reed a lot. I wonder somewhat if he presents a problem to Texas, a little bit like Diego Pavia, but Pavia is such a more strong athlete,
right?
Like what Reed is that more. Reed is probably more explosive than Pavia, but doesn't run through as many arm tackles or can't run through as many arm tackles. Good player. The move at halftime for Mike Elko to go from Connor Wigman to Marcel Reed was one of the moves of the year in college football, frankly, because A&M was watching its season go down the drain during that LSU first half. So we'll see what he can do. I think he's a really talented player, but we'll check in. This one from Kenneth Cassidy. Bobby, if Quinn is 80%, would you start him against the Aggies? I don't know. I mean, I think you have to right now.
Yeah.
I think you go into this. I tell you what, let's pose this question to somebody that's played in this game before. And let's add him here to the group. Brett Robin, welcome in, buddy. How you doing, doctor?
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, happy you're here, buddy. This is a question. You never lost to the Aggies.
4-0.
You were quick to say that.
4-0.
Yeah. Hey, if Quinn is 80%, you're a doctor nowadays over at Austin Orthopedic Institute. We talked about you on this. Would you start Quinn against the Aggies? I think this is a good question for a doctor and a former football player.
Yeah, good question. So you're giving me 80%, huh?
Yeah.
Remind me, is it his right or his left? Right or left ankle?
Oh, God, I don't even know. I think it was his left, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Jerry?
Okay. Yeah, I think with his left ankle at 80%, pushing off on his right foot as a pocket passer, Quinn's doesn't really beat you with his legs anyways. I think he beats you with his mind and his arm. And so his mind and his arm, I think he can do it fine with his left foot at 80%. It's not really the foot or the ankle he's pushing off on to get the ball down the field.
What did you think he was on Saturday when you watched
it was probably close to that. It was, he does a good job of, I only caught him really limping in between, coming on and off the field. So, it's always hard to tell with these injuries what kind of swelling you get the next day. Obviously, the fact that he didn't come out of the game, he finished the game, is a good sign. And for the position that he does, especially if it is his left ankle, I think that's really kind of best case scenario for him.
Hey, Brett, I wanted to take you back to a story you told us on Coffee and Football a few months ago. Playing at A&M, and you were standing. I believe it was Chris Sims, right? And you said you went through the story. I was standing literally right next to him, and I couldn't hear what he was saying. So for the Texas,
we were in the huddle. Yeah, we were in the huddle down at the zone. I think they had just completed the zone like a year or two before, and there's no way to describe. There's no other situation in life where I've been 3 inches from someone's mouth and couldn't hear what they were saying. And so it was such a weird moment that I'll never forget. He literally had to like go around the entire huddle and yell in your ear hole, literally an inch from your ear. It was that loud. I mean, it really feels like the stadium shakes. So, credit to the Aggies. They do, for everything that they are good fans and they're loud. So,
so being part of that, how much do you think a headset communication for Sark and Quinn are going to help in that environment, even for the first 15 seconds on a Saturday? You've played through it. You've lived through it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the problem. Like Quinn can probably cover his ears and hear I've never worn one, so I don't know how loud they actually are. But I'm assuming, with covering the ear holes in the helmet, you'd be able to get at least the verbiage in. The problem is going to be communicating it to everybody else. I mean, you're going to have hand signals. I mean, the whole reason we now have the helmet mics is from this sign stealing, but you can't get this. You can't hear in that when you're deep down in that part of the field. I mean, it's weird. It's like, I don't know if you've ever been in a room that's completely pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of your face. And it's one of those unique situations you can't prepare for. And you've never, in life, you just don't run across it. So, yeah, they're all going to have to really be on the same page as far as communication. A&M's going to definitely have the advantage on us there.
Brett, take us back to your favorite Texas A&M memory. Take us back to one of those games where you had and participated in and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it is actually probably that same game that I was talking about. I think the play that we actually ran was a shovel pass off of our 5-yard line. And so, I ended up getting the first down and got absolutely clobbered. Got high load from Terrence Keel. I don't know if you remember him. He was a heck of a safety. But the cornerback, Roy Williams, was blocking him on the left, and I was just trying to surge for that first down and just took a sweet high-low shot, but got it out of the end zone and got us out, out towards the 20. And then, that to me was one of my favorite moments in that game. But just going up to College Station, anytime you get a win at Kyle Field, and you can turn that place from the rowdiest place in the world to just dead silence where you can hear a pin drop. I mean, that's as good a feeling as it gets.
Brett, I got to ask you, when you go to Kyle Field, did y'all go the night before? Sark's taking the team the night before. Mac had some problems, I think, in 99.
99, yeah. It was definitely 99. That was the year I redshirted. And the hotel crew, well, let me back up. They were calling the phones all night. So when we stay at another hotel, they're supposed to turn the phones off and have security. And apparently they had the phones on all night. So all the players got called throughout the night. They were knocking on the doors. Nobody got any sleep. And then I believe it was an 11 a.m. game. And so what happened is 5 o'clock came around and the crew didn't show up to cook breakfast. So, nobody had any sleep. No one had breakfast. Mad Dog and all the assistant strength coaches were running to gas stations to get power bars. And, basically everybody was just going off of adrenaline for the whole game. And so after that, we never stayed in College Station again. We went and stayed in, I believe we stayed in Katy. I'm trying to remember. I don't think we did a walkthrough. I think it was the only game. It's the only game we don't stay or we didn't stay in the other team's hometown. And I think it was the only game we didn't even do the walkthrough on their field.
So after you beat A&M, when you're in the locker room and y'all are celebrating, is that the biggest celebration or is it an OU win?
Well,
I know. Sorry, I had to ask that.
yeah, this is the 4-0 and 0-4
Yeah.
OU time. But I was there when we beat OU when I redshirted, so I have seen that. I think A&M is just because you don't grow up in Texas with, or I didn't grow up with anybody I knew that went to OU, but my dad went to A&M, my cousin went to A&M, so I had plenty of guys that I hung around with and knew that were all Aggies, and so you just have that sense of pride and a little extra. It's going to be a good year for me, coming out on top at the end of that game. But that locker room it's something special. Just when we come out and all our own fans have waited around and they're hanging out by the bus, and it's just one of those cool feelings.
Was your dad? I'm sure he was a Texas fan for the 4 years you played.
He
what,
converted.
What was it like when was it like when you weren't playing anymore?
Yeah, no, he's a full Longhorn. It's a quick. I'll tell you a quick funny story. I grew up going to Kyle Field. I know Kyle Field really well because my dad went there. Like I said, my cousin, my uncle was a professor there. So I was an Aggie growing up, and I had plans on going to A&M. The problem happened when I went up to their camp as a sophomore. I got food poisoning the night before. We were supposed to run our 40s and do all the drills and everything. So I was up all night, didn't get a lick of sleep, had completely dehydrated, didn't really perform well on all the tests. And after that, they just didn't really recruit me. And so, my dad had no problem though, once he met Mac and the staff and kind of got on board fairly quick, and he's never turned back. I mean, we still go to the Texas games. I don't think, in fact, I know he hasn't been to an A&M game since.
Hey, what do you see from this team this year that really impresses you? You're on some really good teams. What are you seeing from this team that really impresses you?
I think the depth of talent. I mean, when you can, I feel like it is really difficult to get, too deep. And sometimes, you look at receiver, it goes 3 deep. But having linemen is probably the hardest thing, is filling good offensive and defensive lines. But then just having depth. I mean, I can't really think of a position that you couldn't roll the second guy in and not have a drop off. It felt like we always had one position, that either got decimated with injuries, or, you have an off season where a guy transfers and another guy tears his ACL. And next thing you know, you're just kind of down to one guy. But here it's plug and play. And it seems like there's really no drop off on the depth chart.
Do you get the feeling, Brett, that they're building something like that at Texas, like what they were building when you were a Longhorn? Because y'all were just getting things started, right?
Right.
Y'all played well, or Texas had played well with Ricky Williams, and then they had the next year wasn't as good, but y'all were starting to build something special. Do you see any similarities between
Definitely
Texas?
Yeah, definitely. The landscape has changed so much with transfer portal and NIL, and I think the fact that we're able to stay too deep, to me, is a good sign. I mean, sure, people are going to transfer, that happens, but it just doesn't seem quite as prevalent. It seems like we're getting the benefit of the transfers and not losing the kids that we want to hold on to, and so. I think that's the biggest challenge that Sark and these coaches have in front of them, is just, keeping and developing guys that are going to be in the pipeline and get there. But it's, from everything I can tell, the culture's good. When you're winning, it's always easier to keep a good culture. But they seem to be well united and just like building a strong foundation and a good culture. And of course, like I said, it helps when you win.
Hey, I got a running back question for you. Not that you had an issue with fumbles, but this Texas team's running backs are putting it on the turf a lot.
Yeah, it's gone to the ground more than it should, for sure.
From a mental standpoint, as a running back, how difficult is that to balance? Because you have to run tough. You can't run tentative. You have to go out and try to maximize your touches. But where's that fine line for these guys? And how difficult of a spot is it for a guy like a Jaden Blue, who's put it on the rug way too much for how many touches he's had?
Yeah, that's where I think coaching's the most important thing. You know, you got to understand each guy, and there's certain guys that are going to, have little streaks of fumbles that's uncharacteristic. And then you got to know, is this a guy that, I need to get on him, or is he getting on himself? Where's his mental state? Because this is turns into a mental thing. If you're thinking about it, you're not running hard. And at some point you just have to get out of, shake it off and move on. And so I think that's where the biggest advantage of a coach knowing his players, how he's going to get them through it. But it's tough. I mean, fumbling turnovers lose games, and it's with the running back position, ball security is, the most important thing. And so, you don't want to be worried and thinking about it too much at the forefront of your mind, but you also, it's important. You got to hold on to the ball to win games, especially these big games like this. You're not going to beat A&M. We're going to get A&M's best shot. A&M hasn't given everybody their best shot, but when they have, they're a really good football team, and they've got a lot of talent, and they're at home, and they're hungry, and everything's on the line. Somehow, despite even losing last week, they still have a shot at going to the SEC championship game and playing Georgia. So there's no doubt we're getting their best shot.
Brett, there's a saying, defense travels in football.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the Texas defense this year?
That's the best part. The best part of this team is defense. Defense wins championships, defense travels. Offenses have bad games, they have days off, but if you got a tough defense, you can win any game. And I think we had great defenses, we had tough defenses, but this is the best defense that I've seen at Texas. And I'd love to know what your guys' take is on that. But
yeah,
I don't remember seeing a complete defense that, like I said, is too deep like this.
Yeah, I would say this, Brett, and this is what I wrote today on Texas Football. There's a defense is only as strong as its weakest link.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
Where's the weak link?
You can't find it.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought maybe, and we were worried about this going into the year, right? Running up the middle against Texas.
Right.
They might have some issues there because they lost Sweat and Murphy. I mean, they lost 2 top 40 picks or whatever it was. Yeah. But the growth of a guy like Jermaine Lole this year, who didn't play many snaps, and what did he play, like 10 snaps in the opener, Jerry? Yeah. And now he's starting alongside Alfred Collins a lot of times and had a big 4th down stop. So really, and frankly, Jahdae Barron's better than you thought he was going to be. Yep. Makuba is better than you thought he was going to be.
Michael Taft is a great leader.
Michael,
solid ball player that's always going to make plays out there. When he's on the field, he knows what he's doing. Everybody's set. And of course, I'm a Westlake guy, so I'm always going to give Taft my shout out. But I just love watching him play. I love his energy. I love the coach. You can see the on-field coaching. You can feel the leadership from the back there. And yeah, there's not a weak link on this defense that I can find.
Yeah.
Brett, somebody asked in the chat, and it just popped in my mind a couple of months ago, if we ever had you on again, ask about Cedric Baxter and the recovery. Obviously, you didn't do his knee surgery, but the recovery in front of him. And as a former running back, I mean, what's that look like? Obviously, he'll probably be released in August, but that doesn't mean you're ready to go take handoffs and get hit again at that position.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad you asked that. I actually saw him down on the field walking around without a knee brace, which, doing the math, he should be about 3 months out from his surgery. So, he had a good solid gait. I watched him. It looks like he's recovering well. He didn't really have a limp, and so he's off to a good start. I mean, what he had is a tough injury to come back from. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And this is one of those injuries that doesn't matter, how athletic you are, how healthy you are, things just, you may have setbacks in your recovery and things just don't go your way, or you may get more quad atrophy than most people get. And so you can't fully predict. It could be anywhere from, 8 to 12 months and sometimes even longer with these types of knee injuries. But what I saw, at least, from a few feet away on Saturday down on the field, he looked good. I mean, he's walking well. He's moving around. He looks engaged with the team and the players. I would say just from the limited amount I saw Saturday, I think he'll be ready for August.
Brett, thank you so much for spending some time. I know you got a long day. That's Dr. Brett Robin, Austin Orthopedic Institute. Again, check that out. Brett, you're sponsoring a show with Rod Babers and myself on Sundays right now, and we really do appreciate you. And you're a great representative of the Longhorn Nation. You've got any kind of musculoskeletal issues? Make sure you check out Dr. Brett Robin. Brett, here's to 5-0. Hope you're there on Saturday.
Let's do it. Yeah. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Brett. Be good, man. Hey, Jerry, that's fun. That was a great question. Great last question on Cedric Baxter there. That was a good one to hear. Also, always good to hear from a former Longhorn that's been in this game, man. That
story's wild about being in the huddle. That's why I wanted him to say that one again, because Bobby, these Texas players haven't experienced that before.
That's true.
And they played in some. Michigan's not that loud. Alabama, you said it, is not that loud. This is going to take a different communication on the offensive line, QBs to RBs to wide receivers Saturday night. It's going to be the toughest communication game Texas has played since Sark's been in Austin.
Yeah, and that's could there be false starts because of it? The Aggies feast on those in College Station, by the way. Absolutely feast on them. So we'll see what it all means, but appreciate Dr. Robin joining us. All right, we're going to continue talking ball here to the top of the hour and get to your questions. Let's get going now. If you get a chance here, guys, get your questions in. We'll get to them right away. Jerry, this from Juan Garza, what is the recruiting news you've been hinting at? You said, let's say this, there's 3 highs out there, which is your code for guys that have committed to Texas but aren't announcing it. But you keep saying only 2 of them are expected to sign in December.
Only 2 can.
Only 2 can sign in December. So that means it's a younger player. I get it. We're not going to say who or what, Juan. That's not for this one. You can't really beat that one out. All right.
I want to say this. I think Texas continues to trend really well with Kellen Wiley.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. It's 4:20 somewhere. People want to hate on Texas's schedule. Every team Texas has played in the SEC has a win against top 10 teams. We have beaten all by double digits except for Vandy and the loss to Georgia. Hey, here's the other one. Everybody's ready to anoint Tennessee as definitely in the playoffs. Okay. Texas will have played 7 teams that Tennessee also played. Okay. The only point differential that isn't better for Texas at this point is Vanderbilt, and that's because Tennessee hasn't played them yet. So Tennessee lost at Arkansas. Texas won at Arkansas. Florida, Tennessee went to overtime with Florida. Texas beat them 49-17. I mean, there's a number of different games that are like-minded there. So anybody thinking Tennessee has a better schedule or better resume than Texas, just wrong, in my opinion.
And Texas has beaten 8 bowl-eligible teams. Is that the number we're at now? 8, 7 bowl-eligible teams, and it's probably going to move to 8 this weekend. I mean, so and after the A&M game, for those that look at the strength of schedule, which it doesn't with Alabama and Ole Miss losing, that changed the equation of all this conversation. But after playing at A&M, and Florida will get another win Saturday, more than likely, but that's helped Texas strength of schedule a little bit, than beating LSU and Ole Miss. But Texas is going to jump, I think, strength of schedule in the mid-20s after playing at A&M, win or lose Saturday. So that strength of schedule, anybody that's going to be arguing that, I think that argument's going to slowly go away here by the time the playoffs bracket is announced.
Okay, this one from Colin Davis. What do y'all think of the Longhorn Aggie split will be in the crowd? I'm thinking 85-15, 90-10.
90-10 was where I was going.
I got to say this. You realize that the average ticket price being sold, not listed, but being sold right now is over $1,000 a ticket. It's the highest priced college football ticket of the year by far, by like $300. Georgia, Texas is third right now, by the way, just to give you a comparison. So if you're going, have fun. That's going to be a tough ticket to have. I think 85-15, 90-10 Aggies, because I don't think a lot of Aggies are giving up their seats, even for money. This one means too much. Ski Breck, I'll be there in Burnt Orange, 10%er. Good stuff, Ski Breck. Always good seeing you at the tailgates and stuff, man. This from Thunder Pup. There's precedent with the College Football Playoff Committee excluding a team simply because their QB1 was out for the rest of the season. Is this a real risk for Texas? If Quinn Ewers is out for the rest of the season, perhaps, but I would say that Florida State didn't have Arch Manning as a backup.
And that was a 14 playoff.
Yeah, and it was a 14 playoff.
And if 12-team playoff this year, Florida State's still in.
Yes.
As a 6 seed. That's the big difference.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep going here. Jerry, this one from Jesse James. This is a question everybody wants to know because you had a little update yesterday afternoon. Michael Fasusi, the big 5-star offensive lineman out of Louisville, visited Texas over the weekend, has been committed to Oklahoma for quite a while, and is expected at A&M this weekend as well. What's the latest there?
Yeah, I think there's some, optimism on the Texas side and after the visit, but I don't want to. I'm not sitting here saying the kid's going to go to Texas or anything. I want to be clear on that. I also don't think the Alabama beating OU is like a deciding factor for Michael Fasusi sticking with Oklahoma. I think he's got a lot of things that he's got to kind of work through over there. Who's going to be the OC? Is Bedenbaugh going to be back? And you sign on December 4th and you're moving in January 13th, 14th, or 15th, right around there. There's a lot on the plate for Fasusi in his mind right now. He made the visit to Texas with his father and sister. I'm one of the big things I'm looking at is who does he make the A&M visit with? Same people? Does a mom show up for that visit? That's one of the things I'm looking at. There's some optimism on the Texas side, and that's according to 2 sources. So they think they're very much in this. And we'll see after this A&M visit what we hear kind of on the Fasusi front after that visit as well. Because I think the first go round when he committed, it was pretty much Oklahoma 1, A&M 2, and Texas 3. But we heard the visit Saturday was more of an eye opener and maybe was perceived, or the reports were, the returns were, that was a better visit than his June official visit.
That's good. That's good to hear. All right, keep going here. Was curious, this from Trevor Bell. Thank you for the super chat, Trevor, and all of you guys doing the super chat tonight. Was curious why we haven't seen David Benda play as much this year. I haven't been super impressed by LaFau. Is he that much better? I will say this: the thing with LaFau that you get is a more natural, instinctive linebacker, guys. And that's not throwing shade at David Benda. It's just LaFau seems to be in the right place at the right time all the time. Now, he did have a misstep early against Kentucky, but after that, he was really, really solid overall. And, we're not in practice every day, guys. So it's not whether or not he's that much better. If he's just better, period. It's a meritocracy when you play football. Jerry, you have anything to add?
No, I don't on that. I mean, I think Leon LaFau was he had a couple of false steps on Saturday, but I mean, look, you play 55, 60 snaps on defense, it's going to happen of the first one of the game. But I think LaFau's just played at a higher level this year more consistently.
We got a little breaking news here. Matt, if you don't mind, Blake Monroe just broke a little news for us and bring up Blake's tweet. The number 1 player in the country in baseball has committed to the University of Texas. That is a young man named Grady Emerson out of Argyle. He was previously committed to TCU. He's a shortstop. He is the number 1 player in the country ranked in 2026. I have to wonder if he's the number 1 ranked player in the country, does he ever see a Longhorn field? But I believe this is the one that Blake Monroe was hitting at earlier this week. earlier.
Yeah, he'll get the photo shoot and all the pictures with Texas, but with his Texas gear on. But I think that's as close as this guy's ever going to get.
Well, if you're the number one player in Major League Baseball, more power to you, buddy.
That's right.
That draft. I mean, but anyways, Grady Emerson out of Argyle was previously committed to TCU, now committed to the Longhorns. Congrats. Yeah, congrats to Jim Schlossnagle and his team. Blake, by the way, says that the Longhorns are killing it in baseball recruiting right now.
Look, even if this kid never shows up to campus, just to have him committed for over a year, I mean, it's just it just keeps pushing the envelope of Jim Schlossnagle and his staff, what they're doing in recruiting and where they're headed at Texas. It just continues to build that hype and narrative in recruiting. So it's great to have him on your commitment list, even if he never makes it to campus.
All right, let's keep going here. This one from McBooker Ball. College Station stinks like week-old sun-soaked diapers after 2 days of rain. Kind of like your name on your post. I don't like the thought of what you said, what you wrote there, McBooger Balls. This one from Sean McCumber. Could this be UT's best class on paper since 2010?
Great question. That's a great question. That 2010 class had more impact injuries than any class I remember at Texas. I mean, like Jordan Hicks was rarely healthy at Texas. Jackson Jeffcoat was injured, banged up at Texas. There were some others on that group as well. But the on paper class, I do think it will be. I think things are trending in that direction. I'm not saying Texas is going to domino and run the table on these guys, but if you think about the 6 guys that are left out there as top targets, I think if Texas gets 4 of those guys, it's going to be a better class, and they may push for number 1.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it's a much better class than that class, even on paper, in my opinion. So I'll put it that way. There's several NFL players on that list, obviously, but I got to say this. I think Texas is headed. They're recruiting in a different stratosphere right now than what they were late in Mac Brown's tenure.
It's definitely a bigger, faster class, right? Definitely.
Yep. Rapid Calm with a good question here. Best throw you've seen Quinn make as a Longhorn? Jerry, you have best throw you've seen Quinn make as a Longhorn?
Yeah. Mine, the first one that came to mind was the throw to Gunnar Helm in the Michigan game when he moved up in the pocket. When he moved up in the pocket and it was about a third read throw, and it was back of the end zone, so he had to throw it over everybody. He had to make sure that ball was over the linebackers between maybe a safety. I thought that was a tremendous throw.
Most memorable, maybe the Xavier Worthy throw against Alabama, but his best throw in that game to me was actually the one to Adonai Mitchell for the touchdown. So I hear you. He showed maybe more athleticism on that Gunnar Helm throw, but that pass to Adonai Mitchell and the timing of it was tremendous. A lot of people are talking about these throws to Worthy and stuff. He's had quite a few. Texas hasn't been lacking of that. The one to Golden in the corner of the end zone on the run, that little pass to, I guess you could say, was that one against Michigan where he's rolling left and then throwing back right? The A.D. Mitchell sideline throw against TCU was huge. If you remember that sealed the game. That was a big-time throw at a critical moment. Good answer.
By the way, he was on his best quarter or almost quarter of football I think he's played at Texas was against Bama in 2022, by the way. He was on fire in that game before they pretty much hit him illegally. It wasn't called.
Oh, you talking about the very first year against Bama?
Yes. I was at that game, and I was like, he threw the opposite field, from the opposite field hash throw. He threw the route. Somebody mentioned that the Worthy. I was like, whoa. And then he hit the deep ball. I was like, this guy looks like he's going to throw for 400 yards in this game because Saban was going to play man.
Yeah. Somebody says that called TD
Good one.
before that was called back. That's a good one too. Justin Yarbrough, your thoughts on how Texas is setting up the 26 class? This is looking a little forward for us, a little over a week until signing day for 25. How's the 26 class looking at this point? It feels like Sark's got his legs under him, and he'll have 2 college football playoff berths to sell to incoming recruits potentially.
I think the word I'm going to use is continued patience. Because Texas could have 12, 14 guys committed right now if they really wanted to. But as we see with Sark, the recruit through the whistle, the evaluate through the whistle, they're going to be in a position where they can be more patient than ever. And that doesn't mean they won't take a few no-brainer guys. But I also think that you'll see that the strategy will not change. You're not going to sit there and have 17 guys committed by early June. I just don't see that. I think the strategy will remain the same. I think they're going to have the ability to get more kids on campus from outside the state than even last year, so they can make sure evaluations through January. It goes dead in February. Spring football, the evaluations there. I think you're going to see continued patience. But I think, look, where Texas is headed in recruiting is just get ready for another top 5 class. It's just how high does it go?
Yeah, I think that you got to wait and see what exactly happens. I think that let's see how this year finishes out. That would be a big piece of it, right? As well. So never know. Texas wins against A&M. Sark's. The fact of the matter is that Sark is up the ante for expectation levels at Texas. And another college football playoff result is only going to cause more of that at this time. All right, we've got time for one more question here before we let things go, guys. And let's see here. Let's go here because I think this has a direct bearing on the game this weekend. Kellen Nietenhofer, listen to Elko's presser. He said Ruben Owens is possible for a return this week. Do y'all think that makes a difference if he does play? If he's healthy and go, Ruben Owens is a really, really talented running back that is a load to bring down. There's no doubt that he would make a difference. How big a difference, given he's only been back for 1 game, is a good question.
I don't see it as a big difference. I mean, we just talked to Dr. Robin about coming off injuries, and if they tried to give it a go with him, man, I mean, he had a pretty serious ankle injury, so I think he'd be. I'm not sure I'd actually play him in that game if I was A&M.
Guys, we've had a couple more super chats come in, so I got sidetracked there.
That's a good question.
Somewhere, yeah. How does revenue sharing change recruiting next year? We don't know. Is the answer. We don't know yet. Because I think that there's going to be revenue sharing, and I think there's also going to be NIL. I don't think they're 2 separate things. I don't think they're 2 things that are the same. So we'll have to say that. KD35, I am the best. When officially does the portal open up? And heard any intriguing names going to enter and any surprise names from Texas that could? Look, I mean, I really don't know yet on anybody that could leave from Texas. Somebody's talking about a Manny Muhammad tweet. We got a super chat on that. At this point, I don't know what that could mean. That could be a quote lyric to a song. I mean, for all I know right now. So we'll check on that in the meantime. Jerry, any names at this point from Texas? I know we know of some that are likely to enter. I don't think we should be speculating on that during the regular season.
Yeah, I think I'll tell you one guy, if he enters the portal, will be very popular, is Zechariah Branch at USC.
The wide receiver out of USC.
And wide receiver return, man. I think he is a tremendous talent. And I think you would see the Oregons and Texases and everybody else have serious interest in him if he jumped in.
This is from Travis Cadell. How was that Super Texan, Bobby? He dropped by a couple of bottles for us at the live stream on Friday over at the Co-op. It was great. Had it on Sunday. as a little cheers to myself. Because of OTF, we are proud members of Flat Creek. I'll be sure to hold a bottle for you, Jerry, next time I see you. Travis, thanks to you and your wife for doing that. I love that picture of your little baby there up there as well. All right, Jerry, any final thoughts before we let folks go? We've got coffee and football again tomorrow morning. We've got a lot of questions in today I could not get to. We apologize for that, but we've got to get going here. We have some other obligations. Jerry, anything else to add?
No, I think, look, it's recruiting is right there for Texas. I mean, they're battling it out here at the end. These are big boy, gird up your loins recruitments, man. I mean, the 6 guys, which we'll be talking about leading up to signing day. Signing day's 9 days away, almost 8 at this point, is Javion Hilson. By the way, I did have some news on that. Somebody close to that recruitment told me in DM right before the show that there will be a decision made later this week if Hilson will make the official visit to A&M for the Texas game, because they play Friday night in the 3rd round of the playoffs. He was just up at Michigan. It was headed for a Texas versus Texas A&M decision before the Michigan visit. So we'll see if Javion Hilson sticks with and takes that visit to Texas A&M this weekend for the Texas game. That'd be his official visit. Nick Townsend, talked with him a little bit earlier today. Solid that Texas is going to attend the Texas A&M game, however. But everything we've heard is, pretty solid, very solid to Texas. But anytime you go back on campus, you just got to continue to monitor it.
Yep. All right. I did got one other I forgot to go to. Lock and Horns, how short a leash do you think Sark has with Quinn this week, and what will it take for him to make that decision? How short a leash? Unless he's injured, I don't think there is a leash right now. I mean, he proved that against Kentucky, did he not?
Yeah.
Unless he's injured, I don't think there is a leash. Seriously injured.
Yeah.
They may do that at some point in time, but we'll see. All right, I want to finish with this, if you don't mind, guys. Wait, I've been out of the loop Greg Allen says, I've been out of the loop the last couple of days. How are DeAndre Moore and Isaiah Bond coming along with their injuries? Both played on Saturday, Greg. We'll see if they're full speed this week. I think that it's clear that Moore is getting better, whereas Bond's injury may be a little bit of a recurring theme right now. And so we have to wait and see. All right, I got to end with this. I am doing this video tonight, and it's a birthday of someone very special to me, and that is my wife.
Hey.
Jenny Burton had a birthday today. I wish to say nothing but thank you to her for everything she's done for our family, for our 2 kids, as well as me. Jenny Burton, I hope you're having a great birthday night out with friends. We'll celebrate tomorrow night because I'm not going to be on. All right. For Jerry Hamilton, I'm Bobby Burton. This has been Talkin' Ball on Texas Football. Hook 'em.